On this edition of In the Gun, it's time to brawl. You can smell Pat Narduzzi and his boys heading down 79. We will preview the Mountaineers and the Panthers, all that and more on this edition of ITG.
Caution, this podcast contains bad jokes, optimism, and a healthy disdain for Pat Narduzzi. Watching it may increase your actual knowledge of actual football.
ITG.
All the pieces are in place for us to have a chance to win it all.
And we're the three best friends that anybody could have.
There's Owen Schmitt in the building.
Like a runaway beer truck down the sidelines.
Sure, where's he in? He in here, Jed Drenning?
I'm not much of an athlete.
The thing that's non-negotiable is playing hard and playing tough.
And Wesley, Valen, Uhler. You are in the gun.
Because once you enter this family, there's no getting out.
In the Gun, episode 272 of your new favorite WVU football podcast. I am Wes Uhler, as always flanked by the best teammates in the business. We've got the signal caller, Jed Drenning. We've got the co-host, the producer, Mr. Do-It-All himself, Schuyler Callihan. And we will be joined a little bit later, of course, by the runaway beer truck himself, Big Owen Schmitt. This episode of ITG, it takes a village to put this thing together, and we have got a fantastic village here on this program. Our friends at Bet Online, we all know the game starts here. A huge shout out every day of the week to JR and all the good people at Toothman Ford. We all know cars cost less in Grafton, and there are few people supporting WVU and our athletes like Team Toothman in Grafton. A big thank you to our guy Rick Lewis and Fortis as well. We've got some fun news that we're working on with them still in the hopper for roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed. You got to visit fortis.us.com. To the good people at Johnston Equipment, I know they are geared up for the brawl and ready to go for Saturday afternoon. Make sure you're checking out Johnston Equipment, their location on Route 33, between Weston and Buchanan. Also online at Johnston, that's with a T, JohnstonEQ.com. And finally, of course, the newest friend of the show, the good people at the Book Exchange. Get all your Mountaineer gear and WVU apparel at the Book Exchange, locally owned and operated retailer with more than 90 years of selling everything you need for game day and everything else you need to show you're the ultimate WVU fan. You can shop at their two locations, of course, downtown Morgantown and Evansdale on Patterson Drive, or online at bookexchangewv.com. And when you go online, of course, you can use the promo code INTHEGUN20 with your order to get 20% off on the ITG fellas. And the man, Dave Ryan, our connect at the Book Exchange, also shared with us, if you're going to be in Morgantown Saturday for the brawl, you need some new gear to match your Stripe the Stadium color. When you check out at the Book Exchange as well, too, you can tell them, hey, I'm a listener of the In the Gun podcast. I have the promo code INTHEGUN20, and they will give you 20% off in store as well, too, fellas. So no excuse, all right? Real quick pet peeve to get us started here, just for a quick second. I can't stand when I hear people complain about the Stripe the Stadium game because they can't wear their favorite outfit. I'm a superstitious sports fan, too. I get it. I got my outfits. I got my things. I got my what you want to do, what you want to wear, all that. I get it. But nobody is bigger than the team. Put on the right color, buy in, be a part of something bigger than yourself.
Can I make one more statement onto that too? What piggybacking
Sure
off of that? The Stripe the Stadium map came out today, and it's more gold than usual. And I understand that the student section thing, it's kind of hard to really do because they just flock all in there. It's even more gold this year than it usually is. That's one of my biggest pet peeves is not being able to do it all the way throughout. I don't know the perfect solution. I'm not going to pretend to know it, but there are other teams out there that do it. They figure it out. So hopefully at some point we can get to that point. But I know we got to fix the student section attendance first. That's number one on the priority list. So show up, be there, get that thing packed up and full, and be ready to go against Pitt.
Wes, that was big news. That 20%, when he pointed out to us, that's also available
awesome.
Physically in the brick and mortar stores. Wow. I mean, first of all, we talked about that's a chunky savings, 20%. But now you can walk into the store on Patterson, walk into the store downtown. Hey, I watch In the Gun 20, and you save 20%. That adds up fast. So hats off again to our friends, the Book Exchange, for making that available to our listeners.
Yes,
and
and we
viewers.
will absolutely. We will have our week to week participation too in the comments coming up here at the end of this episode, where you can answer Jed's throwback helmet question and be entered in to win that replica WVU throwback helmet. The gold with the baby blue state outline. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous, and you can win one thanks to our good friends at the Book Exchange. We'll get to all of that though at the end of the episode. Of course, it is Brawl Week. We are going to have the Pitt preview here in just a minute, but before we do, it's also September 11th today, and that is a day that all Americans who were alive on September 11th, 2001 certainly remember and will never forget. And Jed, every year, I think you do a great job of doing this, but listen, September 11th means something to every American, but for you and for WVU football, it hits a little bit closer to home.
Yeah, it means different things to different people, obviously. And to me, the face of 9/11 is forever Chris Gray, my best friend on the team when I played at WVU. I share memories about him every year, about how he made us laugh, about how he'd have concerts, impersonating the boss under the tent during two-a-days, during camp back in the days when we had two-a-days up on the grass field. Funniest guy that I've ever known, and was never trying to be. As always, on September 11th, in memory of Chris, I will be listening to The Boss, blasting it out in my car on Sirius Radio, XM Radio. I don't want to go too far with it, but shout out to Timmy and Chris's family. And it's always heavy. It's always tough, but I've taken a vow to, when I think of Chris, I still want to smile, because that's what Chris wants every person that was ever around him to do. He brought a smile into every room that he was in. Like I said, it means different things to different people. It impacted so many of us, but that's the most direct impact to me was Chris Gray, who was with Kenner Fitzgerald on the 105th floor, Tower 2. And we have a lot of friends from those teams, from Charlie Fedorko to Glenn McNew, on down the line. The list goes on that are thinking of Chris in much the same way. He made us all laugh. So why don't you do something today and a smile for Chris Gray? And if you get a chance, listen to some Hungry Heart. That's all he'd want.
Oh, no, I you know that's no problem for me. And I know, when we had Charles Wesley Godwin on a couple years ago, we asked him his favorite album of all time, and he talked about the Nebraska album by Bruce Springsteen. Jed, there's long been rumored that Springsteen recorded an electric version of that album too that never got released, and he just announced like a week ago that there is Electric Nebraska, and it's going to get released here in the next few weeks, sometime this fall. So I know Chris Gray, I know my father Gary, and all other Boss fans are going to be up in heaven cranking that Electric Nebraska here before too long.
Coach Wallace and I text each other. Greg Hunter was tight with Chris Gray, another friend of the program. He just touched so many people. I wish everybody had a few minutes of Chris Gray in their lives, because he just made everything better. He really did. He just made everything better. We need more people like him in the world. But unfortunately, there's nobody else like him. So that's where we're at.
Unfortunately, we have way too many Pat Narduzzi's and not enough Chris Grays. I had to make a joke to transition us out of that. Jed, you do a great job with that every single year. Beautifully said. And we will all be thinking of Chris Gray and the other thousands of people that we lost on September 11th on this day. But it's time for us to get to a break. When we come back on the other side, it is time to preview the Pitt Panthers, the Backyard Brawl in Morgantown, Saturday, 3:30. We'll get into all of that when we return. You are in the gun.
For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement, with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
Nobody supports the blue and gold Mountaineers like Toothman Ford. With over 20 NIL deals and counting, Toothman Ford continues to rally behind our student athletes. And it's time we rally and support the dealer that supports the Mountaineers. Not only does Toothman Ford offer the best prices in the state on pre-owned, their never over MSRP campaign on new Fords guaranteed to save you thousands. Drive with pride all season long, knowing you're supporting the dealer that fuels our Mountaineers. Toothman Ford, where cars cost less, in Grafton and at toothmanford.com.
You're listening to Mountaineer Football Talk.
ITG.
At Coyote, we're going to treat you like dirt because we hold dirt in the highest regard. We're honored to find it under our fingernails. It keeps us humble, honest. If you know us, you know getting treated like dirt means getting treated with respect. Coyote, we dig dirt.
Now at Johnston Equipment, get 0% financing or a free loader with low-rate financing on select Coyote models in stock.
Come check out our new Coyotes at Johnston Equipment.
Get all your Mountaineer gear in WVU apparel at the Book Exchange. They're the locally owned and operated retailer with more than 90 years of selling everything you need for game day and everything else you need to show you're the ultimate WVU fan. Shop at their 2 locations at downtown Morgantown or Evansdale on Pattison Drive, or online at bookexchangewv.com.
When shopping online at bookexchangewv.com, be sure to enter code INTHEGUN20 at checkout for an awesome savings of 20%. That's right, 20%.
Back in the gun here as we roll along and we get ready to brawl. It's the Pitt Panthers. It's the West Virginia Mountaineers. 3:30 Saturday in Morgantown, Milan Puskar Stadium, Mountaineer Field. The last time these teams will meet, man, this sucks when you say it out loud, until 2029. I mean, we'll have another Olympic cycle, we'll have another presidential cycle, all that stuff before these teams play again. It'll be 2030 before Pitt comes back to Morgantown.
Unless we're in the same conference by then.
That is actually a very good point by you, Schuyler. So there is always hope and the possibility of that for sure. But for the 3rd straight year, guys, we know obviously when this series was renewed, in what would have been 2022, that Thursday night game at Pitt, that was the opening game of the season for both teams. But since then, this is the 3rd straight year that it has been the 3rd week of the season. It's also the 3rd straight year that WVU is 1-1 coming into this game. Although obviously I think this year's a little bit different than the last 2 years where it was a loss to Penn State and then you beat Duquesne and Albany. And then it was like, okay, Penn State was really good. Albany and Duquesne were whoever. We're really about to find out who we are here in week 3. Now you're coming off a loss to Ohio, to a MAC school that has everybody anxious and upset. And there's, a lot of that preseason excitement and optimism has turned to pessimism. So with that, once again, 1-1 with an opportunity against Pitt to kind of reset the narrative, recharter the season. Although this time, it feels like it'll be an ultimate palate cleanser or a big pile of poop on what you've already been dealing with for the last week. And guys, I think we can all agree one of the positives, and there certainly were not many, but one of the positives that we can take from that Ohio game is the WVU defense did their part. 4 turnovers on the day, holding a Ohio team that had just put up 30-plus, or 28, was it? No, 30-plus against Rutgers on the road the week before. So, Jed, I think we all agree that if WVU is going to win on Saturday, be successful on Saturday, I think it has to start with the defense having another hold them under 20 points, force multiple turnovers type of performance. So where does it start as we get into this with the WVU defense against the Pitt offense?
The first thing that strikes me is it's a game of 2 tempo offenses. So nobody really wants to win time of possession. They want to find rhythm. It's like, you take it. No, you take it. We won't be long. You take it. So it's going to be back and forth. But we haven't found the rhythm at certain points. Not in the first half against Robert Morris, not for the balance of 4 quarters against Ohio, whereas Pitt has. Pitt is a rhythm-based offense. When you look at what Pitt does offensively, Cade Bell has done a tremendous job as their young offensive coordinator coming out of Western Carolina a few years ago. He's the father of people my age remember Kerwin Bell as the quarterback for the Florida Gators, great SEC standout for the Gators, played in the NFL, and he played for his dad in college, and then he coached for his dad. And if you want to see the roots of this offense, this pro spread that Cade Bell runs, his dad played for Lindy Infante, who was a big name offensive guru in the 80s in the NFL. And there are a lot of elements from the Infante system, the Lindy Infante system. Oh, and I'm sure that's a name that you know from the circles that you traveled in the NFL. Those guys all know who Lindy Infante is. So there's elements of that, but it's very creative. What strikes me is, before we get into any particulars with this, what strikes me is this is a Pitt team that returns their top 40 in returning production on both sides of the football. So a stark difference between West Virginia and the 80 plus new players that we've talked about ad nauseum. So I want to ask you guys, before we get into the specifics or out in the weeds with it, what your general overview of the Pitt offense might be, and then we'll pop the hood and take a closer look.
Sky?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're still coming into their own. I don't think they've quite hit the strides they thought they maybe would in these first 2 weeks. They showed some flashes of it. Eli Holstein's been good for the most part, but he's also made a couple of really bad decisions that led to interceptions over the middle of the field. I believe one of them was an interception in the end zone that he just ball should have never thrown. What's interesting is I believe both of those interceptions that he's got this year came where he was not blitzed. So take that for what it's worth. But they've got a lot of playmakers. It's going to be interesting to see how this secondary bounces back, because I think they could have played much better as a unit last week. We talked about KK Tarnu in the recap. He played extremely well, but some of those guys need to step up in the secondary and play much better in pass coverage. But I mean, you talk like Poppy Williams, Blue Hicks, Kenny Johnson, all those guys are really complementary pieces to Desmond Reed, who can be a kind of a dual threat in the pass and run game. So it's going to be a tough chore to defend those guys. But I think if West Virginia can get a couple of stops early, and I know obviously it's kind of a cliche thing to say, but you don't want this thing to get into a 10-0 affair by the end of the first quarter, and your offense is still struggling. So you want to keep it pretty in check and get some rhythm going, make your offense feel like you have a chance. But I think this is an interesting matchup, between Cade Bell, Zach Alley, two young coordinators that are, hot shots. They're going to be viewed widely, nationally as some of the best up and comers, and it'll be interesting to see how it works out.
Yeah, I want to kick it to Big O here to just welcome him to this episode and let him get some brawl thoughts in there. But just to piggyback off of what you said real quick, Schuyler, I think Eli Holstein is an interesting case study through 2 games, because if you just look at the box score against Duquesne in Central Michigan, you'd be like, wow, he's lighting it up. 8 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, thrown for a good amount of yards. But what's funny is, like, all this week when I've talked to, and you guys know this, 99% of our listeners know this, but we're picking up new listeners always along the way. So I should maybe I work in Pittsburgh sports media for my day job, my career, my livelihood. And so with that, I obviously bump shoulders. I work closely with a couple Pitt grads, a couple Pitt football fans. Like Jed always says, of the 6 of them that are out there in the world, I work with like 2 or 3 of them. And they were all kind of like, hey, not that Holstein's been bad or anything like that, but like the eye test isn't necessarily matching the box score. When I'd be like, wow, it looks like he's lighting it up, they'd be like, he's been fine, but it hasn't looked as good as it might on paper. So, Jed, I know you'll be proud of me, but I went into the Pro Football Focus numbers on Eli Holstein.
Yeah.
And something that I saw that shocked me was, through those 2 games, Eli Holstein has completed what they call 2, Jed, how do they?
Big time throws.
Big time throws. 2 big time throws, and he's had 4 turnover worthy plays, I think it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's a thing that's been regurgitated by a lot of other different people. But and that's I feel like there was a time like 5 years ago where you would come up with a stat like that and it would be like a kind of niche thing. now everybody has all these analytics, right? And one person tweets out something like that or says something like that. But that was interesting to me. And you watch kind of I haven't sat down, I didn't sit down and watch the Duquesne tape or watch the the Central Michigan tape from start to finish. But when you watch the kind of condensed game tape, it does look like there's some opportunities downfield that he's leaving out there. It does look like there's been some time for some big plays, that he hasn't necessarily uncorked the thing like we saw certainly for those first 7 games for Pitt last year when they got off to their best stretch since Dan Marino was on the team. So Big O, I think that, kind of what Schuyler said about the start and falling behind early and what that would mean for the WVU offense. I also think you don't want this Pitt offense to get in a rhythm either. Like they've been, there was Central Michigan kept it a little close, but they pulled away and won that game comfortably. Obviously, they did that against Duquesne as well.
They pulled a James Franklin at the end there, by the way.
They did pull a James Franklin and score a bunch of points in garbage time. But Big O, this is probably a team certainly that's feeling confident in themselves in Pitt. But they're still asking some questions about who are we. We're about to go on the road for the first time. We're about to play a power opponent for the first time. I do think that start for the WVU defense and not letting that Pitt offense get off and running right out of the gate. I do think that's an important thing to watch in this one.
Yeah, I agree with what both of you said. I'm gonna speak a little bit more on maybe the atmosphere in which I think is going to play a significant role, at least, when the game starts. It's going to be a rocking atmosphere. We know what's at stake. This is the last time we play them for 4 years. This is an environment that is going to be very loud, very electric, something that Pitt hasn't played in the last 2 games. No offense to their, at home fan base
full offense to their fan base. Yes.
You're too kind.
I do feel like I made it in life. Narduzzi, he did give me a shout out.
When they were a top 10 football team with Slayton, who's on their staff now, and Pat White, who's on their staff now. I think Schmitt's the only guy they haven't hired, but they'll probably bring him back this week.
He mentioned me, so I feel like my life's complete now. Narduzzi knows who I am. I can die a happy man.
You've arrived.
He didn't ask you to change your hat, did he, Owen?
No, he didn't. He also said, I didn't know Steve was on the staff, so I know I don't know what kind of scouting they've been doing, what their department's been holding information from us, I guess. But it's going to be an electric atmosphere. We knew when this game was scheduled, the importance to us, Mountaineer Nation, right? And I think, quote unquote 12th man for us is going to make a significant role. Those Mountaineer Maniacs are going to be absolutely off the hook. I think it's going to be the fan base needs to really help us out with noise level, right? So when they're on offense, we need to make it extremely difficult for them to coordinate, right? To make adjustments, whatever we need to do. I am happy with. I'm not going to say happy. I'm pleased with where we are defensively. I'm glad we're that's our strongest attribute, at least from what I see right now. So look, Rod and the gang, Zach, they I know they've stressed the atmosphere. I'm very positive that stadium's been rocking and rolling with crowd noise all week long, getting these guys prepared for what we're about to see. Wes, to your point, and Schuyler, we do need to hold them, right? We need to kind of even the playing field, right? Get their confidence down. They're obviously getting boosted from the last 2 games they've had. We have to come out. This is a dogfight, man. It's a dogfight. We got to come out guns blazing, swinging, throwing blows, and get these guys off track to start. If look, cliche, you can say cliche all you want. We gotta punch them in the mouth. O-line needs to make a presence. D-line needs to make a presence right off the bat, right out the gate, and get these guys off schedule. If we can do that, and even if we go scoreless first quarter. That's going to settle nerves down, right? Settle, and I think more for us because we know what's really at stake here. Um, but I think if we can do that, and like I've always said, hey, if we can get to the quarterback, right, that's their guy. If we can get to him and get some good shots on him early and get them off track, I think that's going to give us our best shot at getting where we need to get, right? Getting involved, stay involved in the game, and we'll see how it plays out. I'm excited. I've had a very hard time sleeping this week. Like I'd love to show you guys my sleep study watch that I wear. It's been like I'm awake like every 30 minutes. Like I just like it's like on my mind. I don't know why I'm nervous. Like I feel like I'm getting ready to play the game. I've been working out twice a day. I'm like doing crazy stuff right now. I don't know what's going on, but I'm super excited and ready to see what this is, and for us, this is a big challenge. It's our biggest game thus far, really for both teams. And like I said, our Mountaineer Maniacs and our fan base need to come alive to give us that extra edge that playing at home at Milan Pushkar is all about. Jed, I know you got a ton of things you're ready to say, but we'll have at her, old buddy.
Well, I'm going to start with this.
Real
For
quick,
those
Jed.
who watched, go ahead, Schuyler.
Really quick. The whole game day atmosphere thing, don't worry, Bigo. Pat Narduzzi's got that taken care of. They've been blaring country roads to help prepare for the game day atmosphere.
I
That's
guess
another thing he's swung and whiffed on because country roads doesn't come till after the game,
exactly
not during the game.
Hey, he's been, I'm telling you, his scouting team, they might need to look at him a little bit, make some changes. I think he's got some false information.
I mean, there'll be a song that might play, it just might not be that one.
Yeah.
Hey, you hear country roads? As they say, it's too late. But if you watched a few days ago the third episode of Barbecue with the Beer Truck, you learned that Owen actually enjoyed his highest yards per carry versus any Big East opponent of his career, 10 yards a carry against Pitt. So you might want to listen to something he has to say when he's talking about.
He got any eligibility left?
That's right.
I might have.
You got 3 more still.
Yeah, these days, hey, that COVID year, who knows, right? So as he's cooking up some brisket, you're also learning about him shredding those Panthers. But this might sound somewhat counterintuitive to say, but those who watch the game will understand it perfectly. We missed 20 tackles against Ohio U. And yet it feels like the defense played a pretty good game of football. Again, on its surface, it might sound counterintuitive, but I think everybody understands what I'm saying. They made life more difficult on themselves than it had to be, but they squad up at the appropriate times to give us plenty of chances, to not just to stay in that game, but to win the game. We just didn't seize on those chances. So I asked myself, how does Zach Alley defenses traditionally rebound from poor tackling performances? So I checked out a few times that it's happened. Last year against Texas, when he was at Oklahoma, they struggled in a loss in the Red River game. They missed 15 tackles against a very talented Texas team. The next week, against South Carolina, they beat the Gamecocks. They reduced that number to 7, more than cut it in half, and they posted their highest tackling grade of the year versus an SEC offense. So yes, he was preaching it to them, and yes, it made a difference. Go back 2 years to Jack State when he was with Rich. They missed 22 tackles in a loss to a very good Liberty team. The next week, got that number back down to single digits in a win over an explosive Western Kentucky team, one of the more dynamic offensive teams in Conference USA, and put up their highest tackling grade of the year. So he has a history of rebounding from these types of tackling performances in a very positive way. That matters. Here's why that matters. Mountaineer fans, of course, remember one of the biggest differences in the game in Athens was Parker Navarro and how slippery and evasive he proved to be. 7 forced missed tackles, scrambled for 80-plus yards. He had 8 scrambles for 83 yards because he was so twitchy and shifty and played the angles with his quickness. Remember those numbers: 8 scrambles for 83 yards. You want to guess last year in the brawl in Pittsburgh, Eli Holstein's scramble numbers against West Virginia? 8 scrambles for 83 yards. Exactly. But it came in a much different way. He's not small and twitchy. He's big and strong. People slide off him like an oak tree. So it's critical to get multiple defenders to him. In that game last year, he had 86 yards after contact. How many times did we think we had him dead to rights for a sack? He slips free, he finds someone downfield, makes a big play. He threw for 300 plus yards, but more than half of that came in the fourth quarter in large measure because of plays like that. We didn't finish the job when it looked like we were going to get home. So start with that. Tackling needs to improve. We talked about it in the recap. If you can put what this defense is capable of, along with improved tackling, the sky's the limit to what maybe they can do. Schematically, trust that Zach Alley is going to throw some wrinkles and looks at them that they haven't seen. But you have to help him help you by tackling in space, getting Hatch to the football, and bringing this big rascal down. So let's look at this. Pitt offensively is creative. They move the pieces around. They create matchups. One of the biggest matchups is going to be with Des Reed. He is a nightmare in the pass game. We bottled him up in the run game last year, but he made a difference with the 2 touchdown catches. He had over 50 receptions last year. He's always been that type of weapon as a receiving asset. And they're going to try and get him in space. They'll move him around. They'll try and isolate him on DBs that they like or linebackers. So you might be asking yourself, okay, well, what happens when you pressure Eli Holstein as they're trying to do all these things, maybe force the issue and don't let them so calmly go about their business? Schuyler, you alluded to this earlier in terms of what happens when you do and don't sack him. Let's discuss this. Against the blitz, 15-19, 155 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks so far, and more importantly, 0 sacks. They forced him into 4 scrambles so far, but nobody's got home with the sack. He can shake loose. He actually has the highest passer rating through 2 games, small sample size against lesser competition, in the ACC when blitzed. Now, here's what you have to pay attention to. There is a metric called average depth of target, and I like that because it gives you the average depth of the routes run that the quarterback is throwing to. His average depth of target diminishes to 7.7. It's under 8 yards per throw when blitzed. So he's working the quick game. He understands his quick answer throws. Oftentimes that might in fact be Des Reed. His time to throw. Here's an interesting metric that you look at. Time to throw is PFF evaluates this from the time the ball snapped to the time it's out of the quarterback's hand. It's not the amount of time that they protect the quarterback. It's the amount of time it takes him to take the snap and be rid of the football. Well, when blitzed, his time to throw is less than 2.5 seconds. He gets rid of it very quickly, once again, among the fastest in the ACC. So you're going to have to find ways to impact the plays differently when you do blitz him. First, don't let him see it coming. Sneak up on him with your scheme. In the second half, we did some of that with Navarro. Some of those things, when we forced those turnovers, he didn't see coming. That's the critical nature of blitzing a quarterback. If they see it coming, any quarterback worth his salt is begging for that to come, and he'll make the trade-off of a shot in the mouth versus 0 coverage and a one-on-one throw all day. Don't let him see it coming, and don't when it's coming, and don't let him see where it's coming from. That's the trick. That's something that Zach Alley can, in fact, do. And here's where it really gets interesting with Holstein. Against just 3-man rushes, 3-man or less, actually, he has a pressure rate against him. A pressure rate's defined as any time you hurry the quarterback, sack the quarterback, or knock the quarterback down. His pressure rate against rushes of just 3 men or fewer is 36%. It's among the highest in the country. He was the same way last year. He holds on to the football until someone pressures him. That's one of the issues. And his average depth of target are deeper throws now. It's pushing 10 yards. He holds on to the football. So if you drop 8 in coverage, he's going to challenge you. He's going to say, oh, okay, you're not going to pressure me? You're going to drop 8? Let me take as long as I possibly can to scan your entire defense. And maybe if somebody shakes free and tries to get me, I'll extend the play anyway with a stiff arm or a missed tackle forced. That's where this gets interesting. So the sweet spot needs to be found. What are you going to do in terms of mixing it up, pressuring him, and dropping into coverage? And I think it's going to be critical because he does have weapons on the perimeter. When you look at what Pitt has and what they're throwing to, that's one of the things about it. We talked about the returning experience. A lot of these guys played for them last year in this system. And that's to say nothing of the fact that Des Reed didn't just play last year in the system. Des Reed also played in the system for the same OC, Cade Bell, for 2 years at Western Carolina. So he understands what's happening. But look at their wideouts. Raphael Williams, 37 catches for him last year. Kenny Johnson, big playmaker for him last year, 46 catches, over 500 yards. Hicks is a Louisville transfer with some experience, but then you get into Des Reed, another transfer, and Deuce Spann from Florida State. They don't have a lot of transfers in the mix. It's like 13 or 14. They did commit a couple of those spots for the receiver room to build some depth, but they have some guys that can create some problems for you. And what's alarming is they have a talented tight end room that they really haven't tapped into much yet. So keep an eye out for that. Now, from a protection standpoint, I like a lot of what I saw out of their left tackle. Their right tackle was a little suspect. But, their left tackle can hold his own. He's a road grader in the run game, plus in pass pro, he's a handful. When you watch the Central Michigan game, and this is Cade Bell at work, their O coordinator, their play caller. They start the game, Owen, with a play action off outside zone to the boundary. Well, Central brought a nickel blitz from the wide side of the field. Now, they missed the nickel blitz coming in from the wide side. Holstein at the last second felt it. And as that nickel had a hold of him, he kind of flips the ball out and gets rid of it to Des Reed. Well, the next play, guess what they did? The next play, Central Michigan brings the same nickel blitz, but this time they RPO right into it and hit a stick route in the void of their slot route. So they have answers to what they do offensively. They're not just throwing mud at a wall. They're not, and the funny thing is they're not a big RPO team, but they went to an RPO for an answer there. Something to watch. We know this is being a tempo team ourselves. Anytime against a tempo team, you're trying to defend one, after a first down, you better get lined up. Because one of the things Pitt's going to do is quickly sprint to the line. They'll go formation into the boundary to outnumber you. They'll go trips into the boundary to the short side of the field. And what they're trying to do is get a quick 3-on-2 numbers advantage, flip a quick screen out because you're not aligned yet. Boom, there's 6, 7, 8 cheap yards on first down. Perimeter run game, they do like the stretch play. They do like the outside zone, but they sometimes tend to be a little leaky to the backside. So if you're an aggressive second-level defender, if you're a backer or a nickel back, a Fred Perry maybe, coming downhill and the run's going away from you, you have a chance to actually chase that thing down. And CMU missed a couple opportunities for TFLs in that respect. So an aggressive second-level defender does have a chance to do that. Because what I'm saying is, just imagine in your mind's eye, if they're running the football wide left and the defender to Pitt's right comes off that edge from the second level, not necessarily a defensive lineman because they'll typically have that secured, but that second level defender, they can chase that thing down while it's still in the backfield. There were some opportunities for that. And then there's the escapability of Holstein. Here's one of the things that I do tend to think makes him a little different when you watch him on tape. A lot of quarterbacks escape and do different things with it when they extend a play. The thing about escaping pressure, whether you break contain to extend the play or whether you step up in the pocket and then break outside, either way, when you're adding 2, 3, 4 seconds to a pass play, you are absolutely maximizing stress on the back end of that defense. Now you're asking the corners and the safeties to hold up in coverage for that much longer. That's difficult to the supreme. What he does, instead of immediately looking downfield at those wideouts, and I'll even see sometimes open wideouts on crossing routes and a host of other routes, his eyes instead go down lower to his check down. He's looking for Des Reed. He's looking for Des Reed when he breaks out, understanding, oh, yeah, the DBs have a handful covering those receivers, but guess who else has a handful? Those linebackers now for an extra 2, 3, 4 seconds dealing with Desmond Reed. So oftentimes when he escapes and extends a play, he'll flip it right back underneath to Des Reed. Boom. You talk about yards after catch. That's a nightmare. That's one of the subtle ways that he hurts you in the Pitt pass game when he does extend those plays. When they get down to the goal line, they're pretty smart about how they handle their business. Watch the hard count. They're looking for a free play to get you to jump. They'll throw the fade. They've done that a couple times, so be alert for that. Once they get inside the 10, they'll use motion around the goal line once again to create matchups that they like. Don't be caught sleeping if you're on that back end. Again, when I talk about from a personnel standpoint, really like that left tackle, number 78, Percy. Not a big fan of Bear, the right tackle, number 70. I think there's some things you can do there. I saw him whiff on some second level attempts at blocks against linebackers in the outside zone where he disconnected from the double team, disengaged, and moved on. He doesn't have great feet. So he's not that great in space. But and then finally, I'll see them move the wide receivers around in different forms of motion. And one of the impacts I noticed that has is the receivers by and large kind of hold their own in the run game as downfield blockers, but they're not great at playing the angles when they motion them in the run game. So sometimes I'll see them miss a perimeter defender because they motion inside and don't catch that edge. And sometimes that perimeter defender is in position to make a play. So they might be outthinking themselves just a little bit when they try that sort of thing. But that's what I got there, guys.
Yeah, in Ohio last week, they tried to dip that ball underneath the Bangura a few times too, almost 2 or 3 plays in a row. And, we don't know Reed Carrico's status. He's day-to-day, but I think we mentioned it. Maybe you mentioned it on the recap that Ashton Woods, Ben Bogle, they're going to have to step up and play better.
I used to tell my quarterbacks, guys, we have what's called a spot route. Owen, you're very familiar with it. You're simply asking the super back, the single back, the full back to run a check release spot route 5 yards directly in front of the quarterback, showing the quarterback his hands. It's a great route versus zone coverage. It's not a moving route. By check release, I mean he checks his read key, the linebacker, whoever it might be, in that protection scheme. And if his read key doesn't come, he releases, he circles back 5 yards directly in front of the quarterback. And I used to tell my quarterbacks, I want you to throw the first 5 downfield packages we throw today. I want you throwing all of them to the fullback on the spot route. All of them. I want you to go 5 for 5 unless they take it away. Because I'll be watching tape, and they better take it away or I want to see you throwing it. You better be 5 for 5 unless you have a real good reason not to be. That is an afterthought against most defenses. And as a quarterback who understands and appreciates that, watch out for that. And that's throwing to anybody, much less when you're throwing to a guy as dynamic as a Desmond Reed.
It makes a lot of sense. It absolutely does. And, there is, as you mentioned, like there's a lot of names that you just discussed there and threw out there that were a massive part of that crazy comeback for Pitt last year at Acrisure Stadium. And it's a team that is ahead of their timeline of WVU. Like I think that's clear as can be, right? I mean, Narduzzi's in year 10, I believe, is the head coach. They're now in year 2 with Cade Bell and Desmond Reed and a lot of other returners on that side of the football. I like Jed. I hate saying this because I hate giving them credit, but I think like this could be one of the more talented offenses that WVU sees this season. Down the stretch of the season against Arizona State and Texas Tech in those last 2 games, those will certainly be on the list. But this is a group that is experienced and knows what they're being coached to do.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get after that offensive line. And create some leaks, take advantage of some of the things that I saw, like even backside, knock them off schedule if you can get a backside TFL with that pursuit. But there's a reason that when Eli Holstein came out of high school, he was a top 5 quarterback from a national recruiting standpoint. He ends up at Alabama, transfers up here. We all know the story. He's not a finished product. He's not as polished as some others, but he's profoundly dangerous, as we saw last year. He turns it into a big man's backyard football game, and you have to get a hold of him and bring him down. Take whatever big quarterback we've seen do this, whether it's Roethlisberger on down the line. Those big guys, he's over 230 pounds, 6'3", he's a handful. So he can shake you free. You might think you have him and you don't. And they've been tough to beat when he's healthy. I mean, what are they, 9-1, 9-2?
Yeah.
When he's healthy, I mean, they've been tough to beat. The biggest thing that hit them last year we all know and love what happened to them down the stretch. They opened up 7-0 for the first time since Dan Marino, but then they lost 6 straight games. Well, a big part of that, if we're calling a spade, was because of Holstein's health. He got knocked out, and it was a massive drop off to their number two. And then they lost a really talented left tackle, and it all kind of crumbled from there. But Holstein's loss was something a lot of teams can't recover from losing a starter behind center like Eli Holstein, and Pitt couldn't either. So right now he's back. He's at full health. And when he's at full health, they are operationally incredibly dangerous. So let's get after him. Let's impact him. We've talked about a couple of those mistakes. He's played not flawless football against lesser competition and against Duquesne and Central Michigan. Let's give him some looks that he hasn't seen, but let's start by tackling better in space, making them earn everything they get. That's the biggest improvement we need to see in a span of 7 days. If we tackle like we did against Ohio, it's going to be a long afternoon. That can't happen. Tackle more efficiently in space and give Zach Alley a chance to do what Zach Alley does, and that's he'll throw some ghosts his way that he doesn't see coming, and we might force those 2 or 3 or 4 turnovers that can make a massive difference in this football game. So that's what you talk about, you know.
And also, when he gets on the move, don't take your eyes off of Desmond Reed, because there's a couple of plays, I believe, against Central Michigan where he scrambled. It looks like he was just going to keep it. And then the last second, boom, quick pass to Desmond Reed. Sometimes it was towards the middle of the field and it popped for a first down. So
what's crazy is I saw the slot on a dig route wide open at 15 yards right behind him. But he chooses Des Reed at 5 yards right in front of the slot on a deeper route. And I'm just like, wow, you really are. That told me you're looking for Desmond Reed because you're blind to that wide open crossing route. You are looking for Desmond. I've never seen a quarterback scramble and start looking underneath. That just tells you how much he appreciates what he has in the skill set of Desmond Reed.
Absolutely. There's a huge confidence in there between those two. And that's honestly, when the play breaks down, all hell in a handbasket. I mean, guys are running around, flying around. It's absolute chaos. So he's obviously been coached well on that, and he's obviously grown to have some sort of obviously overwhelming confidence to look for him downfield because and like you said, Jed, how many catches did he have last year? 50 some? You know, he
50,
obviously has a good pair of hands. So, look, we all know what's going to happen this week. All right, we're playing Pitt. Okay, crazier things have happened. Okay, trust me, I was a part of one of the craziest games ever with the Pitt Panthers. So let's bring it, boys. That's all. The best advice I can give you is play like your hair's on fire.
Well, let me ask you a question, and we'll wrap up the Pitt offense with this. Because what I remember about Desmond Reed is he has some Chihuahua in him, not just dog, Chihuahua. I mean, that dude thinks he's 6'3", 240 pounds. When you watch him between snaps, which I had the opportunity to do up there last year, he gets in everybody's face. He's talking more smack than anybody. So what can you do in the heat of the moment with passions flaring in a game like that? You cannot afford 15-yard stupid penalties. So what do you do to avoid that when somebody's yakking it up? You want so badly to yak it back, smack the guy around, do something ill-advised. How do you keep your head in that type of environment and not let that happen?
Well, you know, I'll use the word poised. You got to stay poised, right? You have to know the task at hand. If there is a guy who can do that, I feel like Rod is very good at keeping his guys level-headed for the most part, right? Stupid penalties, obviously, we've played under him. We understand what his brand of football wants to be, right? And as cliche as this sounds, when you got a big quarterback, right, and you got a dynamic running back like them, obviously we're going to have some sort of I'm not going to say so much of a spy, but there has to be some sort of a method, like some sort of I don't even know what I'm trying to really say. Like there has to be a sense of urgency to know when plays break down this week. Hopefully they're working on it. Look, we got to find this guy, find him where they are in space. He's obviously looking for him because that's the easiest throw for him. It's hard to look all over the field when you're running and gunning. Right, Jed, you know that from your many scrambles back in the Glenville days, I'm sure. But to stay poised, you got to know what's at stake, right? We're here to win. If you can get a guy to yap and yap and yap and push and shove and don't retaliate, because football is a passionate game. It's hard to not feel bested, right, when somebody's talking smack in your face, right? It's hard. Hey, I really want to get that guy. The best way I can say from my perspective, you let the pads do the talking, right, and let the paramedics sort them out.
And Wes, what's funny about this? There's an irony to be found in what the approach that Pitt forces you to take with how difficult it is to bring Holstein down and how dangerous Desmond Reed is as a pass catcher. Because stop and think about it. Well, what are we saying about Eli Holstein? You got to get hats to him. You got to gang up on him. So meanwhile, he breaks contain, scrambles, gets outside the pocket to extend the play, and you're a linebacker. You're hovering back there in coverage, and you're thinking, man, I got to help my guys out. We need hats to the football. And so as soon as you pursue him, boom, there's an open void. There's Des Reed. So I think one of the critical parts of this is unmitigated hustle by the D line in absolute pursuit on fire to get after him. A play is never over. Shed your block, I don't care how far away, and run the fastest you've ever run in your life. Get on your horse and get after him, because support has to come in the form of the D line, because the linebackers are preoccupied with other assignments.
Yeah. Play to the whistle.
Yep.
100%. No loafing. If you loaf, you're a traitor.
You're a traitor. Well said. Yeah.
Let's spin the block to the other side of the ball here, Jed. And, Coach Rod's offense, still a lot of unknown there. I mean, we know the concepts of his offense, but in terms of how they're going to execute, still certainly a lot of unknown there. We know about Pat Narduzzi's defenses certainly as well, too. And this is a group that returns all their linebackers, a good portion of their production. So what do you expect from the Pat Narduzzi defense against the Rich Rodriguez offense?
It's much the same as it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago when he was at Michigan State even. You're going to see, by and large, there's some wrinkles, yes, but it's an even front 4-3 quarters defense. Now, the funny thing is, Zach Alley considers his defense an even front quarters defense as his base, but you'll see Pitt in their base a lot more than you'll see West Virginia in their base. What makes Pat Narduzzi a little different with that quarter structure? He pressures you so much. People often associate him with cover zero. That's true blitz with no safety help, but that's not the case. Most of what he does with all this pressure that he brings, and he has a pressure rate of over 40%, even through 2 games against lesser competition this year, it's 43%. So he brings a lot of hats. He brings a lot of pressure to force the issue, and it gets results, but he does so with zone coverage behind it because he wants eyes on the football. And we're going to get into some of the things that Pat Narduzzi philosophically believes and how he goes about his business defensively. But if you want to look at some of the numbers, and these are numbers that year in, year out, you so often see associated with Narduzzi-led defenses. They lead the ACC in quarterback pressures. They're number 4 nationally in that category. They lead the ACC in tackles for loss, 11 a game. They're double digits so far through 2 games. They lead the ACC against the run because they're so often in run blitzes. That's 35 yards a game is all they allow. That's number 5 in the country. What's funny about this is they have so many run blitzes that on early downs, I think some of the pressure you see against the quarterback's almost incidental. It's they're firing in through run fits, but they end up pressuring the quarterback when the quarterback's trying to throw it. But there's a metric called stuff rate, which is when an offense tries to run the football and it results in 0 yards or fewer than 0 yards, a TFL. Pitt leads the ACC in stuff rate 32% of the time through 2 games. You try and run it on them, that's 0 yards or even a loss. They lead the ACC in first down stuffs. This is part of the formula for getting you behind the sticks and throwing these crazy looks at you on 3rd down. So they have 10 of those through just 2 games. They have 6 TFLs on first down. That's second in the ACC. Another first down number, 6 incompletions forced. That's a lot of second and longs through just 2 games. So that's something to consider. it's very difficult to get ahead of schedule against this defense. Now, what did West Virginia struggle, among other things, mightily last week against Ohio? We couldn't win on first down. We couldn't stay on schedule. We couldn't get ahead of the sticks. And it was advantage Ohio because we were off schedule. We were off script. We were facing a bunch of third and longs, and that's not how we're built. So we somehow have to find a way to overcome that. One of the concerns that I have from a personnel standpoint is we struggled on the interior of the O line last week. Those guys' heads and minds are in the right place. They're committed. They have a great mentality. And I do think we're going to see improvement across the O line, not just on the interior. But the reason I say it's a supreme challenge is because I'm really impressed with what I see from those defensive tackles on the interior of the Pitt defensive line. They do a good job of forcing the issue, disrupting things, making life relatively difficult for the offensive line. But when you get into the communication piece of it, they're going to really test the communication of this West Virginia offensive line that hasn't played well together, hasn't played much together. They're going to test our communication. Here's one of the ways they're going to do it. Yes, through 2 games, Pitt has 9 sacks. But one of the things I always check when I'm looking at Narduzzi numbers, because I see it on tape every time I'm watching their defense, how many of those sacks are by unblocked defenders? It's always high. This year already, 4 of their 9 sacks are by a defender who wasn't blocked. In other words, an unaccounted for defender. That means they out schemed you. There was either a miscommunication or a missed assignment. Somebody ran free. Tough to make a living against that. So, once again, it's critical for the West Virginia offensive line to communicate, understand their assignments at large, and not let those types of things happen. What Pitt tries to do is when you run the football, they want to spill everything to the outside. They're built for speed. I mean, look at their 3 backers. You got Biles, you got Lovelace, and you got Lewis, 3-0 and 9. They didn't really have remember Brandon George in recent years, 6'3", 240 pounds. Those long guys, Shane Simon didn't play up there that long ago, 6'3", he pushed 240. They don't have a lot of length in this linebacker group. These guys are all more compact, about 6'1", 200, but they all can run. Pitt tries to spill everything you run at them to the outside and then let their speed chase it down. And one of the things against the high pressure defense, what are you oriented to do offensively? Something West Virginia hasn't done a lot of through 2 games, and that's screen against them, traditional screens. Well, since the start of last year, Pitt has faced among the most screens in college football. I think top 10 in FBS. 75 screens thrown against them since the start of last year. That happens a lot versus a pressure defense. Now, what's alarming about that, the nature in which they run this scheme, they don't really drop their linebackers to landmarks like a lot of traditional defenses do. They kind of splatter them underneath and park them around 5 yards and then watch for things to develop. So they have a lot of eyes on the screen game, which makes them very effective against defending it. But those are some of the high points to start with. And again, I'll spin it back to you guys before we get more in depth with what we're looking at their defense.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with the athleticism. That was one of the things I texted you guys about when I watched their film. That defensive front is extremely active. I mean, they don't have a single guy that's 300 pounds and they're 3 deep across that defensive front. Not one. There's a lot of guys that stand out, but I really like Jimmy Scott. He does a really good job on the left side. Defense's right side, offense's left side. But the one that kind of kept popping up for me was somebody I wasn't expecting. That was Zach Crothers, the freshman, who comes in pass down situations, ton of speed, really athletic, can fire off the ball. He's going to be a problem in the future years for West Virginia. Thankfully, they won't have to deal with him, but except for this year. But yeah, they're pretty active. I mean, Isaiah Neal, Francis Brewu, I mean, they get after it. So it's going to be interesting, like you said, to see how they communicate, but also, work that quick game. I feel like that's one of the things that's going to also help the offense get going is just easy completions. Nothing, you don't have to take some shots downfield. You want to take a couple, but a lot of those easy completions, flip it out to Cam Vaughn, get into your tempo, and that'll help things settle down.
Yeah, that's what you got to have, Sky, and stick in there. I mean, I'll be watching Jazir Whittington. That's probably the best way to put it. I don't know if you guys remember, but he was a WVU recruit once upon a time a few years ago as well too. He when he was in Morgantown for his visit, he had just committed to Pitt a week or two before. And so he like showed up for his visit with like a Pitt lanyard or something like that on, and like tweeted out a picture of our stadium with like hashtag H2P, or, you know, something that Pat Narduzzi would have a conniption if somebody did to him, but something that us reasonable human beings go, there's just a 17-year-old acting like a 17-year-old. But I want to see how he backs it up now at Mountaineer Field against an offensive line that we certainly are not all too confident in. He better have himself a performance, or he should rightfully so have some Mountaineers in his mentions reminding him about all that tomfoolery that he pulled a couple years ago. Not that I hold grudges or remember stuff like that at all, clearly.
Wes is the grudge master, dude. Hey, the biggest thing for me, it's not so much about what they're doing, but up front, O-line communicating. I just want to see us firing off the ball, playing with some tenacity, and getting after it. That'll be a huge improvement for me for what we're doing, obviously, versus them. Obviously, extremely talented up front defensively, Pitt is. And it's going to be a massive challenge for our guys up front. And guess what? Welcome the challenge. All right. Whatever I can give advice to these guys. Look, it's good. Football is a violent game. All right. So be violent.
It's the brawl, baby.
It's okay. You know what I'm saying? Have some grit, right? Have some grit, have some strength. Believe in yourself as a team. You're going to have your defense obviously fired up, helping you guys out a lot. It's time for us really to step up and give them some blows so that we can have a complete football game.
Oh, and it's interesting. Yeah, first of all, it's going to take that type of edge because if we don't get it clicking up front, we're going to have a long night. But we consider Nico Marchiol as, I think at this juncture in his career, we all kind of view him as kind of a battle-tested commodity, more of a veteran presence, right? But it's easy to forget he really, in the big picture, hasn't played a lot of football. And one of the things that stands out to me as I'm going through and I'm totaling things up, and I like to get some numbers to corroborate my film study. Nico's only been blitzed on 56 dropbacks in his career. That's not a lot. He's seen 56 total blitz looks in his college career. And to think of some of the more advanced looks that he's going to be challenged with against this Pitt defense, we've said it before and we'll say it again. Narduzzi's defenses are always at their best when they have a down in the dirt front seven that can get at you. You know, when you look at in recent years when they had, you know, the Baldonados and the Clancy's, the Savasier Dennis, those types of guys. I think some of the guys in this front seven that we've all named can do those types of things. But I've talked about this in the past. One of my off-season projects, I dive into Narduzzi's clinic tape so you don't have to. And trust me, I need a vomit bag with me as I'm listening to him between his film sessions because the guy is just too much to hear. But you do find some insight if you listen to enough hours and watch enough tape of Pat Narduzzi. He's a big zone blitz team. The reason he's big into pressure is as I said earlier, he wants eyes on the football. Now, he says he takes pride in the fact that nobody presses more than his corners press. And he's right. When you watch tape on a Pitt defense, their corners press all day, but it's kind of an illusion of press. They call it shadow technique. It creates the illusion that they're pressing, but they don't really. They bail more often than not. And one of the reasons is they want the receiver wasting motion off the ball with a release move that's not needed. So, and that's why, again, when you study tape, if you see a disciplined route runner, you can work routes on the route tree in the quick game. If you have enough vertical push, you will get that corner to flip his hips, and you can still run routes in the quick game, even though pre-snap, it looks like there's no way I got quick game against these guys. Well, yeah, you can because they'll bail vertically if you push vertically, and it's just kind of a pretext of what a look that they're trying to show when it's not really what they're doing. They want 9 in the box post snap, and that's the critical part, post snap, as much as they can possibly get it. Pre-snap, it's not going to often look like that, but post-snap, they have so many defenders in run fits that's what will happen. They do want to bounce those runs outside, work their speed. They want a running back that has to stop and then re-gear and hit the perimeter so they can chase him down. He likes quarters coverage in part because it's 4 across the top. And he believes he has all 4 verticals covered. If you push 4 verticals at his defense, he has the 2 safeties and the 2 corners, each with a quarter of the field. But that's a little misleading the way they do it because they're so aggressive with their safety fits. You can get them to nibble up with some play action and sneak into those middle quarters against those active safeties. And when we wrap up on the defensive side with my film notes, I'll talk a little bit about that. But they have read keys off their safeties. If the number 2 receiver on the offense, the slot, let's say, to a 2 receiver side, if they engage in any kind of block, boom, the safety's immediately triggered downfield. If they have a number 2 attached to the line, the safety is going to pretend or just assume it's run game. So if you have a tight end and a wide out to that side, they're going to assume it's run game. They're going to fly downhill until they see something otherwise. And they like the quarterback or the quarters coverage against the quarterback run game because it gives you 2 high safeties to pivot one way or the other downhill against the run, whereas 1 high safety doesn't necessarily do that. You have a center fielder as a backstop. 2 high safeties, you can be more aggressive and get a downhill defender to attack whichever side the quarterback's running the football to. It also takes away, as he believes, quarters coverage, the quick game. I don't buy that as much. He talks about pressing the wideouts and their backers hiding low. Yeah, their backers can make life difficult because they're all over you, but not necessarily that press coverage. One of the rules of their defense, our safeties help our linebackers in the run game, and our linebackers in turn help our safeties in the pass game. That's true because the linebackers will reroute slot receivers or tight ends to help their safeties buy time in coverage. Again, skipping through a few more notes, I'm telling you, this is nauseating, some of the stuff that I see. In a nutshell, what it comes down to is this. If you have explosive plays on the perimeter, because they will challenge you to do that, as often quarters teams do, you're going to have some success against this defense. If you don't, they're going to smother you and smoke you out, and it's going to be a long day. So on the perimeter, you're going to have single coverage opportunities by the nature of those safeties play against you with such a downhill disposition toward the run game. But it's an old school Big Ten style defense, and there's still a lot of tendencies that reflect that. But what else you got on your guys' end? Then I'll wrap up the defense with my notes, some of what I saw on tape.
Sounds like a big game for Cam Vaughn, baby. Sounds like we could really use Jalen Bray out there as well, too.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sounds like a bubble and go there, Jed.
What's that?
Sounds like a bubble and go would be right up that alley, right?
I like it. And now I like the way you're thinking, and here's why. Especially with where this offense is right now, splash plays are going to be critical because anytime you get a splash play, you don't have to string a drive together. And right now, as an offense that's still trying to find its way working together as a unit, it's supremely difficult to make a living with 8, 10, 12 play drives to consistently matriculate your way down the field. If you can do what Owen said and pop a big one or two, that makes life a little easier, and all your scoring opportunities don't have to come from sustained drives and efficiency.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, with Jaheim being out and Jaden Bray being out, I feel like there's enough bodies at receiver that they can replace Jaden. I mean, you obviously don't want to have him go down, but you have Preston Fox, you have Jeff Weimer, some guys who played a bunch of football. It's really just going to be interesting about at running back. I mean, you've got Sincere Bowers, Dior Hubbard, Clay Ash. I mean, who emerges of that group? I have no idea. I think you could throw darts at a board blindfold and you still probably would have no chance. But I think Sincere Bowers is probably the one that sticks out to me just because of his sheer speed and his ability to kind of make big explosive plays. So I feel like this could be a game where it's, hey, welcome to Morgantown, Sincere Bowers. This is your opportunity to take a hold of this thing and run forward with it.
Well, that's a question for you. How many carries do you think a healthy Jaheim White would have ended up with this last year? Anybody can jump in. How many carries? Give me a number.
So
are you talking
no right or wrong?
Are you talking on the season, or are you talking in this game specifically?
On the season.
750.
750. There's no wrong answer. There's no right answer. Anybody jump in. Yeah.
I would say would be 250, 270. Is that too low?
Okay, that's fair.
I was thinking like 220, 225.
Yeah, it might be a little
right?
high. Yeah.
Big chunk, 200 plus, well north of 200, right?
Oh yeah.
So I'm looking at this like this as a former offensive play caller. All right. That's a lot of carries that have to be distributed elsewhere. All right. So what's that distribution going to look like? Am I comfortable enough with my running back room to divide those carries among two or three other guys? Maybe to an extent, but I don't know that I'm there yet. Who am I more comfortable with? And who have I spent the offseason talking about how comfortable I am with them?
Quarterbacks.
The quarterbacks.
Yeah, I was just going to say Jalen Henderson.
5 quarterbacks who can play.
All
so I
5
think some of those carries might be divided not by 1 or 2 or 3, but maybe even 4 or 5 quarterbacks over the arc of time. So if you want to look at a way to divide those things up, yes, you're going to have an elevated load from the rest of the running backs from that room, but also don't sleep on the quarterbacks maybe getting a few more touches in the run game over the course of the season, maybe even against Pitt and beyond, because you do trust them to run the football. You like what you've seen from a playmaking standpoint at different points, different junctures from all 5 of them. Those are 5 able-bodied carriers of the football that are part of this mix. So that's another way you have to approach this, right, Owen?
Yeah, and I wonder, I think back to my time when you do have a very aggressive defensive line, instead of really running sideline to sideline, will we take more of the approach of QB ISO type stuff? Downhill, trying to,
That zone or trap them even, yeah.
What I'm saying, traps, downhill stuff, and see if we'll use basically their athleticism, their speed, their size, their strength against them by trying to match it up with some like you were saying, trap counter, that kind of deal.
Anything can happen. And when I talk about the quarterbacks, I'm not talking about put the quarterback at running back. No, it's not what I'm saying at all.
No.
He's talked about the possibility of playing 4 or 5 quarterbacks. Well, that very well could happen in this game and beyond. Any game that's on the table. But that's 4 or 5 more bodies or skilled football players that can share part of that burden that now exists with the loss of Jaheim White. But Owen, you're exactly right. Do you maybe, instead of just saying, hey, we're going to play into your hand, we understand you're trying to spill everything to the outside. So instead of going a bunch of stretch play and outside zone, maybe we'll attack it right into the teeth and say, oh, no, you won't spill it outside. Maybe we do that. Now, what you're going to have to do, obviously, if you're going to do that with inside zone, with trap, whatever the case might be, or like you said, ISO, you're going to have that interior offensive line swell up with those guards and hold their own. And I do think we're going to see improvement across that offensive line. So I like what you're thinking there. I'm going to hit a couple points with the notes. Again, I don't want to go through everything I have, just some high points. We talk about the defensive interior and how impressed I am by them. 95 Brewu, he's a handful. He's disruptive. You'll see him knife through double teams. Speaking of the inside zone, Owen, Central Michigan tried to inside zone him, and they couldn't climb off the double team. He knifed right through. He forced a cutback. Now, it didn't show up on the stat sheet, but he's the type of player that's going to impact things without the numbers. He's just a force and a presence in the middle. 55, Fitzsimmons, another one of those defensive tackles. Very strong legs, strong lower body push. He's tenacious, high motor. You can tell doesn't take a play off. He consistently beat Central Michigan with his pad level, and he's very aggressive. So the combination of firing out low and that level of aggression, that's a handful on the interior. These 2 defensive tackles had Central Michigan's interior offensive line pushed straight up all day. I mean, they had, this is a critical matchup for this West Virginia offense on the interior of all our offensive line. We talked about the safeties that might nibble up. Number 12, Brookins, keep an eye on him. He does trigger fast. I think he's maybe somebody you can attack or target with some play action possibilities. There was even another time that I saw him bite on a sweep action. He let the tight end run right by him against Central Michigan. Central Michigan overthrew what should have been an easy big play opportunity for a score. Now, on that same play, another defensive tackle. You mentioned James Schuyler. This is a play where it should have been a touchdown for Central Michigan, but instead, because that safety blew right by that tight end, didn't cover him because he was worried about the run game. James got to the interior. They were on a bear front, which for those listening, just envision this. You're covering the center. You're covering both guards. You have 3 interior defensive linemen. And out of that bear front, James just fired up field and really impacted that throw and knocked the quarterback on his can. and force that errant throw. I saw a defensive back, number 21, who was playing nickel. He lost contain on a flare screen on a critical down. Pitt is usually about leverage and maintaining leverage, so it was nice to see them out leveraged and outflanked on that play. Jimmy Scott coming off the edge in this case finds an extra gear in pass rushing situations, especially. You'll see him take it up a notch when it's 3rd and long. Did you mention him, Schuyler?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned Scott. I thought you mentioned James. But yeah, he has an extra gear when it's 2nd and long instead of, or 3rd and long instead of 2nd and 4. He becomes a different player with violent hands. He's very physical. He runs the hump fast. He's a handful for your left tackle. Also off the edge, you saw Central Michigan. This is also Jimmy Scott isolate a tight end on him in pass pro. That was bad news for that tight end. He put that guy on skates, pushed him right into the quarterback's lap. So you might need a chip and help out with him at times. So that's something to keep an eye on there. Again, the quarterbacks will press. We talked about this in what Narduzzi had to say, but it's kind of an illusion. Even though they press, you'll also see them bail off of it. So be disciplined as a route runner, push vertical. They're very handsy too. Narduzzi corners, that's another signature or staple of his defensive backs. They're not afraid to grab and push and get handsy even downfield. They'll force the issue downfield. Now, Central Michigan did show flashes with some push in the quarterback run game. Owen, we were talking about this with some split zone concepts where you have the tight end crossing over to block or seal that backside defensive end. So they had a little success with the inside quarterback run game, did Central Michigan. Who knows? I mean, there are some things, there are some holes, but all in all, it's a pretty salty defense that gets after you. If you can use some of that against them, more power to you. And that's what we're going to have to do. But we're going to have to come to play, as Owen talked about, and show a pretty great disposition on the offensive line for a great challenge. We talked about it being one of the more talented offensive units that maybe we'll face for some time. On the defensive side, they're a handful as well. I mean, but remember, Rich and Narduzzi go way back. They faced each other 3 times at Michigan and Michigan State. Some of what they do is still relative to that, but a lot has changed as well. But probably more has changed for Rich. No doubt more has changed for Rich than has changed for Narduzzi. But that's kind of what I'm seeing, hitting the high points, guys.
Yeah, and also too, really quick on the run game piece, not advocating for a full position change here too, but you might get Rodney Gallagher some more touches in a creative way. Man Singleton, they like the slots too, so keep an eye out for them as well.
That's a good shout out to Schuyler for sure. Jed just made me think there real quick, and kind of the knowledge of that this is the last time this game's going to be played until 2029, 3-year hiatus, so 4 years from now. As I agree with Schuyler, big thumbs down. We all agree it's one of the few things that WVU and Pitt fans agree on. I think number 1 is that this hiatus is a joke. We should be playing every year, and number 2 is that it's great that we've been playing, but we should really be playing Thanksgiving weekend on rivalry week week when the weather's cold and it's dark out as the good Lord intended. But one thing that you mentioned there, Jed, that I just thought of, like, you guys know this about me. I'm a pretty cynical guy, just with in general worldview. But like, this might be the only time we see Rich and Narduzzi. I mean, if it's going to be 4 seasons before they play again, like, a lot of things can happen in 4 years in terms of taking different jobs,
we're still
job
waiting to
changes,
see Dana bring
retirements.
Houston to Morgantown. Right?
We're still waiting to see Dana bring Houston to Morgantown. Exactly right. Like, we never got that game, which was a major fumble by the Big 12. My goodness.
Poor thing was, big picture. How many times do we see people post how many days it's been that West Virginia has the Black Diamond Trophy for its win against Virginia Tech? Right? Let's not be on the business end of that for the next 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Yep, no doubt.
Now we can
there's
say
a lot
it, not just to Virginia Tech, but if you win this game, we'll be saying it to Tech and Pitt. So let's do that.
You guys will appreciate this. Like, I was a junior at WVU 2011, our last year in the Big East. Okay. The Orange Bowl champion season, of course. So I was at that last Backyard Brawl as a student. Todd Graham versus Dana Holgerson, where Pitt jumped out to an early lead. Stedman Bailey had the stiff arm big touchdown. We came back and big fourth down conversion at the end to Tavon Austin. Sean Alston runs it in. We win 21-20. And I remember like leaving thinking, it's going to be at least another decade before we play these guys. This is awesome now. We just won 3 in a row to close this thing down before taking a long, long break. Now, if 3 years off wasn't nearly as many as the 12 or 11 or 12 years that it was then, but still, yeah, you certainly don't want to give them that. It absolutely would. You don't want to give them that bargaining chip. That's for sure. Gentlemen, is it time, Jed, to close this thing down with our weekly Big 12 pick'em?
Here's what we got. We're going to recap with the fans' picks.
Wait, real quick. Do you want to do the book exchange question of the week first?
Yeah, let's do that first.
Let's do that first.
Yeah.
Let's do that first, then we'll get into the picks. I got something, I might read at the end of the episode. But
okay.
So for the 1965 Throwback Book Exchange question of the week, you guys know the rules. Let's review. Leave not one, not two, but 3 separate comments with your answer. You get 3 guesses with 3 separate comments. Each one's worth a lottery ticket in the pool to see who wins the Throwback 1965 Awesomeness of a Helmet provided by the Book Exchange. Gentlemen, are you ready for this week's 1965 Throwback question?
Of course.
You guys answer? All right. Okay. In the 2003 brawl in Morgantown, the 52-31 game, one play stands above all others. The one play we all think of, made by one Sir John Pennington, with the touchdown catch of touchdown catches on a 4th and 4 from Rashid in the closing seconds of the first half. I believe it tied the game at 24. John Pennington. Who would have seen John Pennington coming in the 2002 or 2003 Backyard Brawl? 2 touchdowns in his career. I have no idea who the other one was against. That was his only touchdown of 2003. Nobody expected John Pennington to be the man of the hour.
I know where
the
this
play
is
of the
going.
Hour. Who, gentlemen, is this year's potential John Pennington? And to be honest with you, you could say almost anybody would be to John Pennington. Jaheim's not playing. Okay. So outside of, I'd say, Cam Vaughn, everybody is a John Pennington. So, yeah.
Anybody in that running back room's a very good candidate.
Everybody, offense, defense, almost anybody counts. So if you're listening, we want 3 separate picks and 3 separate messages in the comment section. And you will get your 3 lottery tickets because those are adding up. I'm going to go. Sky, you want to go first? Wes, you want to go first?
I'm going to go. I don't want anybody to steal mine, although I don't know if you will. He's not a John Pennington because people know his name, but how about Preston Fox?
I was thinking about it.
Pennington like than Preston Fox, Okay.
How about Pac-Man? How about old Pac-Man Fox?
Okay.
Maybe a big kick return, maybe a couple big plays in the receiving game. I'm going P. Fox himself.
That's in the Pennington spirit.
Yeah.
You can go big. You can go big O if you got one.
You want to go with me?
You know what? I'm going to say you're just saying big plays overall, right?
By somebody you don't expect, which is almost anybody. So Nico doesn't count. One of the quarterbacks don't count. And Cam Vaughn. Other than that, I'd say just about anybody counts as John Pennington.
Well, I'll say an emerging running back. So if he plays or if he doesn't play, I'll go with Bowers.
Okay. There we go. That's a good one.
I've got one on offense and defense that I like. I'll go with my offense one because I feel like it's more of the John Pennington theme. That's Jeff Weimer. Not a lot of people know about him. Somebody's going to have to step up in place of Jaden Bray, so I'll go Jeff Weimer. I'll let you know who I was thinking also. Michael Coates, cornerback on the other side.
You know what's funny? I almost said that.
Yeah.
I was going to
I've been waiting to hear his name called for a big play this year.
Yeah, he's a guy that a lot of people think can play at the next level. We probably haven't seen his best football yet, so that would have been my secondary guess.
It's a good one.
I like all 3 of them. We'll have to revisit that. That was fun. So in the comments section, you can either support what those 3 said, say, yeah, that's a great pick. use those 3 picks as your 3 picks, but you get 3 chances. Make sure you leave 3 separate comments so you get full credit with your lottery tickets. Now we're going to jump into our Big 12 picks of the week.
We
and
can skip past
week.
this recap.
This might have been the craziest week we've ever had. This is the
pretty
closest
good.
we've ever come.
This was pretty
to
good.
all 4 of us hitting the number 1. Okay. So what ended up happening was Schuyler. Let's start with Schuyler. This is crazy.
Let's not.
Schuyler. Let's pull.
Hey,
it
you
up
still
here.
got
Schuyler
points
picked,
though. It's not like you put up a goose egg.
He did. Texas Tech, he picked to score the most points as a scoring offense. All Texas Tech did was score 62 points. But Utah was 63. UCF was 68. So Schuyler comes in third with 62 points. 3 points awarded to Schuyler.
It's crazy.
I picked Baylor to throw for the most yards, and they did. 440. I get the full 5 points. Owen, I got to give you credit. I did not see this coming. When you said this, I kind of thought, okay. UCF you picked to rush for the most yards. We'll get into what the fans said here in a minute. The fans were obviously disappointed with their pick. UCF ran for 356. Good on you, Big O. The full 5-point money. Wes, same to you. You picked Arizona, the Wildcats, as your scoring defense to hold an opponent to the fewest points in the Big 12. In a 2-way tie, you still get full credit for first. Number 1, BYU held their opposition to 3 points. So did Zona. You get the full 5 points. So let's review the listeners/viewers, and then we'll make our picks for this week. Okay. Going through those that got it correct, I'll tell you what, this was a tough week. And it usually is before we get to conference play. Okay. Beat Wes for the scoring defense. We had one person pick one of those 2 defenses that did it correctly, and it wasn't Arizona. Oh, I take it back. I'm seeing one as I say this. Arizona was picked by Denny from Ona, West Virginia. So, Denny Allen, thank you. You got that right. All right. And we had Denver. Denver's Adam Hunley, it looks like, picked BYU. So those were the 2 that got the defense right. Beat the signal caller. The 2 that got the passing offense right both picked Baylor. Tampa's Jesse picked Baylor to throw for the most yards, so Jesse got that. And friend of the show, creator of the logo, he's our creator, David Canny, and associate producer of Barbecue Beer by the Beer Truck, picked Baylor as well. So good on you, Pastor David of Philippi. Excellent. Moving on to the other category. That's the only categories they hit. The other 2, that's it. So Schuyler, nobody hit your category, so don't feel bad. We had several pick. Wait a minute. Let me take this back. No, nobody picked UCF. We had a couple Utahs. We had some Texas Techs. We had some WUs. And then, Owen, your category, you were the only person that picked UCF. We had.
There you go, Big O.
Hey.
Most. We had a Utah. We had a Kansas. Almost everybody picked WU against Ohio. So, Owen, you nailed it. Good on you. Good on you. So, gentlemen, what are this week's picks?
That's pretty good, too. 18.
First.
We the 4 of us out of 20 possible points got 18 points. I do think that's probably the best we've ever done in a single week. That's pretty stinking
question.
Good.
So
that's
now the 3 of us, I guess it's a 3-way tie for first, and we only have one choice to gang up on Schuyler.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
right?
Exactly. So that's all we can do is take one away from Schuyler. So after we make our picks, Schuyler will go last, and we'll figure who we want to block Schuyler from. We only get to block 1 team. We can't block 3.
I can tell you.
I'll tell you what.
Oh, man, there's some good candidates.
Somebody in mind? You got somebody in mind? Okay.
There's some good candidates this week. Good Lord.
Okay. Let's looky here.
Texas. I think we should block them from Texas Tech. My vote's Texas Tech, but I'm open to conversation.
I
in the meantime,
like my choices this week. Go ahead, Wes.
I was going to say, this was actually really hard to pick this week. Like, Iowa State plays Arkansas State, but they're on the road after an emotional win against Iowa. They still get it done, but Baylor.
Yeah, I agree.
Baylor's hosting Samford. Okay, Samford's 0-2, really strong, but Baylor's coming off an emotional double overtime.
I'll have no Samford Bulldog.
I know.
I'm a former Samford Bulldog.
Former Bulldog Jed Drenning. But Baylor coming off
a big
former
Mountaineer, former Bulldog. Yeah.
This guy was like Van
I was in the
Wilder,
portal before it was
this guy
cool.
was Van Wilder, but he transferred to a different school. Jed was
Yeah,
on the transfer portal before it was
way
cool.
before the portal was trendy. I was in the portal, right? So,
Baylor, an overtime rivalry, emotional win against SMU. I'm going to go TCU at home under the lights against an Abilene Christian team that's really struggled. I'm going to take the TCU Horned Frogs as my defense of the week.
easy enough. All right. Owen, you want me to go or you want to go?
Just go.
I agree with Wes.
This
This is a bad week. This is a bad week when I'm about to pick, and I'm not giving analysis. That curses me. But I hate picking against the Kansas State defense when I'm about to do so with Arizona at home to throw for the most yards. I'm going with Arizona.
Like it. I like it. Big O.
Okay, Owen, what you got? And then we'll block Schuyler.
That just kind of blew me away. I'm torn here. You know what? I'm gonna go with Iowa State.
Okay. That's a good one.
And I know that's a weird pick.
That's a good one, I think.
It's not weirder than UCF last week, and you nailed it. Come on, man.
I know it.
It's a good pick. I think that's a good pick. They're gonna run the ball. They're gonna play it close to the vest. Get out of Arkansas State with a comfortable win. Don't do anything crazy. Don't expose yourself too much. You know. They've got some hay in the barn already. Iowa State, man, big win over Kansas State. Big win over their arch rivals. They just ground and pound. Get out of there with a comfortable win. Hay's in the barn. Take it easy. I think that's a good pick.
All right, well, Owen. Arkansas just ran for 321 yards against your boys at Arkansas State, so I like that pick.
You guys cool with blocking them, Schuyler from Texas Tech, or any other?
Let's take a look.
Now,
I'm already that sounds inviting without even looking at the rest of them.
That's who I picked the last 2 weeks, so it makes sense.
Wow, I know who he's going with. Wes, I wish we could block too, because you know who he's picking. He's going to pick on my Bulldogs. That's what he's going to do. Yeah, I agree. Texas Tech. Let's go with Texas Tech.
Okay.
Schuyler,
anyone but.
Whoa. Mm-hmm. Or should we go Baylor?
Again, coming off an emotional overtime rivalry win. What if they start slow in the first half? I don't know. Texas Tech was my gut reaction, but if you want, why don't we let Owen decide? Big O, Texas
you're
Tech.
Talking me into it, and Jake Spavital, we don't trust. Then, right? Owen, you're right. That's a good point. But Oregon State,
Wolf.
What do you think, Owen? I like both of those.
They stink.
Yeah, they stink.
And that's coming from me, who just watched my football team score 10 points at a max
Texas
school.
Tech
They
it is.
stink.
Texas Tech it is. Okay. No Texas Tech, Schuyler.
All right. So I've been back and forth on it, and it was actually not Texas Tech.
Son of a.
I was going back and forth between Cincinnati, because Northwestern State also stinks, and they gave up 66 to Minnesota last week. But I am going to pick on Jed's Bulldogs here.
Come on, Bulldogs,
man. Who gave up 40 to Citadel and 34 to Western Georgia. Come on. I didn't even know Western Georgia was a school. It might be West Georgia. I don't know. Georgia West, whatever.
West Georgia. It's West Georgia. Yeah.
West Georgia. That shows you how
South,
bad
baby.
they are. So give me them Baylor Bears, baby.
Okay, so we got that taken care of. Wes, I have a consumer message.
Yes,
Okay.
Jed with the final word before we get up out of here.
Okay, let me hop up my soapbox. This is nothing.
Oh, wait, real
more.
quick, before you give your final
Please
word.
do.
Quick reminder, Owen's weekly barbecue with the beer truck video is out wherever you consume us, and it's brisket, and you're going to want to consume some of that. You see what I did there? And Peach Lot Party rolls along this Saturday. Peach Lot, look for the Grateful Dead WVU flag and the In the Gun podcast flag, and you will find friendly people. Yeah, it'll be before kickoff, so you'll find friendly people. Come say hello.
Yes.
Hey, and there will be samples of Runaway Beer Truck again, right?
Yeah.
So definitely stop by, BS a little bit. And I want to throw a shout out real quick to Connor Vira, good friend of the program, young man, graduating this year. I've known his dad for some time, Mike Vira. They've been great friends of the family. It's his birthday today, as we're recording today. But I wanted to throw a shout for him because he's a special kid.
Happy birthday. Absolutely. Connor?
Yep.
Connor,
Yep.
happy birthday from ITG.
Happy birthday,
Absolutely.
Connor.
Yeah. Owen, what time you think you'll be there? Do you know?
Well, the game's at 3, I
3:30.
believe.
3:30.
A lot earlier than I was last week or 2 weeks ago.
Wes, what time you be there?
Enough time for people to try the food and the beer.
That's right. That's exactly right. I'm thinking.
I'll be in
thinking
about 10.
I'm thinking about 10,
Okay.
10:30. Yeah, 10,
Okay.
10. I am gonna be leaving the kids and everything for the day, so I'll get up and have breakfast with them before I hit the road. But
Michael.
yeah, I'm thinking about 10, 10:30.
I'm going to try.
I
Go
would
ahead,
say
Owen.
10:30 for myself as well.
Okay, we're on the air at 12:30. I'm going to try and get there before I head up to the booth.
I'll call
That's my goal.
I'll call you when we're setting up.
That's my goal because I have some stuff to give you guys anyway, including what Owen Wes didn't see it, but I got a cool thing for Owen. I'll bring it. I got some stuff for you guys too that I've been hanging on since the summer. But yeah, let's look forward to that. So shout out to anybody that wants to come along. You guys have been the best. They've been telling me these stories about the get together down there. So I got to try that brisket. That's one of the reasons I'm coming.
Yes,
so
you
Owen,
do.
you better be there with the brisket when I get down there.
Yeah, I'm gonna do.
That's
I'm
what
gonna
I'll
do.
say.
Now I'm just doing a single. I'll do kind of the same thing I did 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I'll do some slider buns. I'll bring some pickled onions. We'll do a little cojita cheese and
Hey.
the old pickled onions. And I'm gonna do some chopped brisket, and then I'll do some sliced as well.
And some beer.
You know what I'm saying?
I do have a quarter keg of the beer truck's finest lager.
right.
I got a whole bunch of waters and dips and chips and brats and hot dogs and all kinds of stuff.
Hey,
Pepperoni
oh,
rolls.
Wes,
We're gonna be loaded.
One time too here. Okay. Brats. Okay, Johnsonville beer brats is the
only way.
only real brat.
The only way.
That's
in the
a
world.
teaser. That's a teaser
All right.
for his Brats
The only
episode
one.
because somebody who produced the episode,
That's
trust me,
right.
that's a teaser. Yeah.
All right, Jed, get us out of here with something good, partner. Let's hear it.
All right. Well, here's what played out, guys. After the game, obviously we were all in a dark place. It was tough. There's no easy way to digest something like that. I was outside the stadium. I waiting on my wife was swinging by to pick me up, and we were just trying to coordinate where I was in relation to the stadium. And so I had a few minutes because there was traffic everywhere. And the team buses, I watched them pull out, and I was just sitting there, alone with my thoughts. And I'm trying to go through some things and check my timeline, and it seemed like there was more dissension than I liked. Okay, and I'm like, this is premature. Okay, so now by and large, I think Mountaineer Nation is always about the right things, and they get it, and they have the vision that it's going to take to get us places, right? But I just sat there and understanding what Rich is about, and Owen, you'll appreciate this. You'll know exactly where I'm coming from with this. I just kind of made some notes, collected some notes, gathered my thoughts. So I committed them down here, and all I'm going to do is just read some of what I was thinking at that juncture. Up on my soapbox, I go, please forgive me. There's an old saying, don't approach things by asking what if, attack things by saying even if. What if fosters anxiety, even if breeds resilience? What if we lose to Ohio? What happens next? No, even if we lose to Ohio, we'll rebound, we'll improve, and we'll make some things happen. What if we lose a couple of our biggest playmakers? No, even if we lose guys like Jaheim and Jaden, others are going to step up and fill the void, making the most of the opportunity created by these unfortunate injuries. Even if is a mindset that sets you up to overcome challenges and succeed. And there's another way to describe that mindset. Hard edge. Call it whatever you want, but it's not just a slogan or a punchline. that can be dropped at the first sign of hardship or after a tough loss on the road to a team you feel you should have beat. It's a way of life that the folks inside the Pushkar Center know better than anyone. This program does not pity itself. Pity doesn't sharpen a blade. Whetstones and abrasive blocks do that. Things with a hard edge. This will not be this team's last dose of adversity, and approaching every minute of the grind of the next 3 months with that hard edge mindset is the only path to better days. Full stop.
I love it. I'm ready. Got my coal mining hat.
There you go.
Love it.
Got my
It's going to take a unified front to do anything we do from this point forward, including anything we do against those daggone folks from up north. I'm watching my words.
I promise you this right now. Take care of business on Saturday, and no one's going to give a rip what happened in Athens, Ohio.
No.
Gentlemen, this was a lot of fun. Jed, great stuff. As always, for the signal caller, for the beer truck, for Schuyler. We'll see you Saturday. But before then, the one thing we ask of you is to be an ear and tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast. Rest up and take care, because it's time to beat the hell out of Pitt. You've been In the Gun.
ITG.
The fun doesn't have to stop here.
Be sure to hit subscribe and never miss an episode.
If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback,
be sure to follow us on X at In the Gun Podcast.
Join us again next time.
Until then,
tell an ear to tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast.
This mission is over. It's over.